Hi, I'm Mark Gibbs with The Great Outdoors, and thank you for joining us again. Today we're going to talk about a little niche in the gardening segment of bonsai. One of the things we like to bring up first is think about where you're going to locate your bonsai, because that's going to delegate sort of what type of plant you would be using. If you're going to have it outside, you can use an evergreen landscape. This is a great one. Junipers are used a lot for that because of the texture, and they're very easy to manipulate when it comes to growth and getting some great character to the growth. Then if you're looking at an interior plant, there are all sorts of scheffleras, tea tree plants, the ginseng ficus. The ginseng ficus always comes with a really phenomenal root system already going on, so that's a nice way to start it off with a cool pop and an accent to it. Once you've picked your plant, depending on the size, that's going to help you sort of look at the containers that are available and what container you might want. There are lots of great selections in 4-inch containers. They usually will have an attached saucer to them. And then same thing with a 6-inch plant. You would go into a 6-inch diameter on the container here. And again, in either situation, you will be taking off some of those roots when you go to do the transplant. Some of the pots will actually have some wires in them. These wires are used when you do that initial transplant. You're going to make a little crosshatch over the existing root ball in the crown of that plant and wire it back down into the pot so that when you go to water it, you're basically submersing these when you water them. And when you go to do that, initially it may not have enough roots for integrity and it may try to float on you. So this just helps it stay anchored until it starts putting out those new feeder roots and getting that soil anchored down. A few other tools you might want to look at along the way are some pruning shears. This is a beautiful pair that you might use on a smaller plant. Lets you get in there and get specific to your tree limbs and any leaves you want to get rid of, any dead growth you want to get out of there. There is another pair that you can see the neck of the pruners are quite long. So if you've got a larger plant, you may need to get in a little bit further. The longer pruning shears may be a better choice. And then a lot of times with bonsai, we think of transplanting, but we don't really realize that we're not transplanting. We're going to take this out anywhere from the 2nd or 3rd year. Most people will wait for 3 years. And we're going to do what's called root pruning. So these are root pruning shears. Basically, some of these roots are going to transfer and they're going to become very woody. At that point, they're anchoring, which is fine, but we need feeder roots to get good return growth. So you'll do a selection of some of those woody roots that have begun to girdle or turn in on themselves, and you'll take them about 2/3 back with these guys, and then you'll be placing it back in the pot, making sure it's anchored down, and then going from there for your watering. Sometimes on that first watering after a root pruning, you may want to add some nutrient to it just to make sure the plant is stabilized. Another thing you want to consider is if you're doing an exterior or a landscape plant, you'd want something like the conifer blend. If you're doing a house plant for your bonsai, you'd want something like a tropical blend. You're going to start off with these blends moist as well, so we get a true plateau as we're planting that plant, and we're not going to lose a lot of air on that first watering. Another great item to add to your little kit are these little solder wire spools here. This is a wonderful way to add character to your plant. You see how you can corkscrew this really uniquely. And another way to use this is to take a green stem, use the wire and tie it back to mama, and wait for this green stem to go woody. That's going to give you your first kink in an S-curve, and then you can take the new fresh growth, tie it back to the top of your S-curve, and let that get woody, and you've already begun some great character in your plant. These are super ways to add to your collection and give the plant a lot of character, and great ways to maintain them. Now lastly, one of the beautiful things you can do is add some spores to your planting. The spores would go on the soil surface. They take about 4 to 6 weeks to germinate, but they produce a beautiful green carpet on there, and as they go through their regular life cycles, they're adding some nutrition to the soil. It is a beautiful texture, and given in the right location, you're going to get a great green pop as a carpet for your base on the plant. One thing you can do for your plant itself in the pot, we have these wonderful turntables. The turntables make sure that you're getting light equally to every part of the plant as it's flushing out. You can make some marks on here to give you an idea of how far you're turning it each time. You can also put some marks on the bottom of the turntable to give you an idea of where your strongest sun is and how long you want to keep that plant in the position for that sun. So these turntables are very useful as plants get larger as well. If you don't want to have to be moving them a lot or doing a physical turn, or if they're a little sensitive, it's a great way to keep them evenly flushing, very pretty, and then you can even be a little more precise with markings on here to dictate where you're going with it. So if you have any questions, please let us know at The Great Outdoors. It was good to see you this time. We hope to see you in the nursery soon.